Welcome to the Meditation Podcast. You can find all our episodes on meditationpodcast.org. We're also on BitChute and YouTube. You'll find the links in the podcast description. I've got 4 other podcasts along with my coaching, the Learn Polish podcast, speaking podcast, the Awakening podcast, and the Crypto podcast. All can be found on bio.link/podcaster. My guest today in the USA, certified guide healer and teacher with the Modern Mystery School, and the owner of The Light Within, author of the book Ancient Healing, Modern Miracles. Please welcome Dawn Ressel.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I appreciate you getting up nice and early to be on the show.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
So, I've kind of touched on the different things that you're doing, but I suppose you might just kind of introduce yourself a little bit more to the listeners, Dawn.
Sure. Yeah, well, as it relates to meditation, I've been meditating about 7 years, and I used to struggle with generalized anxiety disorder. And so that was what got me to seek solutions, because I wasn't really finding relief in the solutions I was, employing that were more traditional. So I did begin my journey to meditation. And so it's totally revolutionized my life. I'm really passionate about it. I love how it helps people expand their spiritual awareness and solve problems from a higher plane and also heal. So that's really what I wanted to say about meditation and my philosophy. But yes, I also am an energy healer, and I work with clients one-on-one, and I'm trained in an ancient lineage. It's the lineage of King Solomon. So everything that we do goes back over 3,000 years, and it's quite powerful and proven. So that's also another thing I'm really passionate about, is helping people with their healing journey.
Brilliant. So you've just mentioned anxiety, but I know from listening to another show, you were kind of talking about even when you were driving and stuff like that. So you might just kind of tell people a few of the things that you experience, and then how meditation has kind of helped you from that.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. Yes, I used to experience generalized anxiety disorder, which meant I could be anxious all of the time. I didn't even need a reason to be anxious. But in addition to that, I also had panic attacks if I were exposed to certain situations. So one of the situations I struggled with was just driving on the highway, driving over a bridge. Those kinds of situations would send me into a panic attack, which is quite scary. If you've ever experienced one, it's quite terrifying. You almost feel like you're dying, like you're having a heart attack or something. So doing that while you're driving is horrifying. And so it was one of the main things that sought me to seek solutions. And so what I found with having a regular meditation practice is that my baseline for being calm is so much higher. And so I don't get triggered into these kinds of panic attacks. It's extraordinarily rare now, whereas it used to be almost a daily occurrence. And so as long as I'm consistent with my meditation practice, I'm so much more balanced and centered and at ease. And those situations that used to cripple me, they don't really even affect me any longer.
Brilliant. So the Modern Mystery School. So I know you got kind of certifications from that. So you might just tell me exactly about the kind of qualifications and what it's all about, because I haven't heard of it before.
Sure. Yeah, happy to. So the Modern Mystery School is a ancient, we hold the ancient lineage of King Solomon, which includes metaphysical teachings and esoteric teachings, and also healing modalities. And so we help people with their spiritual growth through different classes and techniques like meditation. There's many meditation techniques that we help people with. And then also energy healing, one-on-one energy healing sessions to help them overcome blocks or have more clarity or heal their physical body or their emotional body. There's many different modalities that we offer that focus on different things. And so if you work with a practitioner in the Modern Mystery School, they'll be able to consult with you and help you figure out what's the best path in terms of healings or classes that you should take. And we are a global international organization. So we have practitioners in, I think it's about 60 countries now, and tens of thousands of people who have been initiated into our school. So we are an initiatory path, which means that there is a distinct path of progression and different levels of initiation you can attain that give you access to deeper esoteric teachings or deeper ability to serve individuals. So for example, the second level of initiation is where you then can start to become an energy healer, because at that point you're saying, not only do I want to work on myself and progress myself as a spiritual being, but I want to also serve others and help them to find this work. And so that's what I did. I started down this path initially just seeking my own healing, not really ever imagining that I would become a healer or a teacher, but it profoundly changed my life so much. And it also helped me really get to know myself in a way that I didn't know myself before. And turns out I am a healer, but I was very disconnected from that aspect of my purpose and that aspect of my gifts and abilities until I started walking this path myself to seek healing.
And I think, like a lot of people, they know that they've got a gift, and they they turn away. They get afraid of it, of the power that they've got. So something like getting in touch with a school like that would probably help them kind of realize the actual gifts that they have.
That's such a great point, Roy, because it absolutely does. And one of the modalities that we have in our school, that's usually the first session that I recommend for an individual when they start working with me, is called the life activation. And it's a DNA activation that activates your spiritual and your physical DNA. And it helps you remember what your highest purpose is here. So a lot of us are serving parts of our purpose or aspects of it and have awakened some of our gifts. But this brings the ability to have fuller awareness of what all of that is. And so, like for me, like I said, I didn't know that I had these gifts around being a healer and that I had this purpose that I had actually signed up for, this contract that I had that I signed up for before I even got here. I was totally unaware of it until I started walking this path and I received my life activation, and I started remembering why I'm really here. And it's really to serve others, not just to be kind of stuck in this anxious state and kind of hating life. That's nobody's purpose, And so if you're in that state, absolutely, there's more for you, but it may require you to invest some time in your healing.
And with kind of clients that you've taken through this DNA, like, is there something that you kind of, when you go through this activation, that they get a kind of aha moment, and then they kind of, change the direction of their life, what they were doing? They kind of realized, hey, this is me, when it's kind of said to them?
Sometimes it does happen that quickly. Sometimes it's a little bit more gradual. So actually, in my bio, you mentioned a book that I wrote. It's called Ancient Healings, Modern Miracles. And that book contains 24 stories of how this work has helped people change their lives. So my story is in there of how I overcame anxiety disorder, but there's also stories about overcoming depression or ADHD, or finding your career path, finding your true purpose, finding your calling, finding the love of your life, leaving an abusive relationship, overcoming drug addiction. So there's so many aspects that these healings can address. And really, it's about bringing that individual into alignment with what is best for them. And so what's best for them might be changing their job, but it might just be getting out of a bad situation. So it really works with the individual in terms of where they're at in their path, and then redirects them, brings opportunities to them that are going to help them live in more alignment. And the amazing thing about that session is it continues to unfold over time. So it has happened that I've seen people have a light bulb moment in the session. But what is more profound, I think, is what happens after the session. Even years after the session, people are still receiving the benefits of it because they're attuning their life more to that higher frequency of their truest purpose.
Excellent. And with the energy healing then, because I mean, I've heard like the energy with the hands and everything. Is there different kind of modalities of energy healing, or do you kind of
Mhm.
what one do you kind of deal with?
Yeah, we definitely have many modalities in our lineage. And like I said, we normally start with the life activation because it's a catalyst and it starts shifting things in all aspects of a person's lives. But we also have modalities that work on specific issues too. So, for example, if someone is experiencing physical pain, I have a modality called Insophic Ray, which really helps with that. Or if someone is experiencing trauma, often when someone has experienced deep trauma, they've lost fragments of their soul. And so we can do a session called the soul retrieval to help that individual to recover those parts of themselves that were lost through trauma. There's also a session called the uh, fire soul infusion. So if someone is like facing apathy or depression, it helps bring that fire and that passion and that drive back into their life. So we really work with the individual on what they're experiencing and what their goals are to figure out which modalities are going to be best for them. But the thing that I really love about this school is that we have so many modalities that we can potentially help individuals with.
Okay. And do you deal with breath work? Do you go deep into breath work?
I would not say that breath work is a core part of our lineage. Meditation certainly is. We do, I mean, in the sense that we work with the breath in order to help people with relaxation. In meditation, we do that for certain. But in terms of, I think, what people traditionally think as breath work, that's not a big part of what we do.
Okay. And I know that on your blog, you've got a nice blog with different things that you discuss, and one of them is kind of 4 reasons to start meditating. I'm not sure if you
Uh,
remember, but it might be
yes,
something nice because some people are kind of still on the fence about, what's
sure.
everything about meditation.
Right. There's so many benefits to meditation. I think in that blog post, I highlighted only 4, but there's 100 things I could have said about, the benefits of meditation. I mean, more clarity, more peace, more awareness, more ability to be present, lower your stress. It helps your body too, right? Like you're calming down your nervous system. And so it's going to help you just your body to function better. It brings more creativity. I mean, I could go on and on and on, and I'm sure many of your guests have talked about those benefits as well. But I just know for me, it's really transformed my life in order to be able to live free of really of mental health issues.
And just from listening to other shows that you've been on, that you were very entrepreneur, you were successful in the business field, even though you were experiencing anxiety. Were you able
Yes.
to kind of, now that you've taken this journey, were you able to look back? How was that possible? Because sometimes people,
Mhm.
when they suffer anxiety, they kind of suffer in all realms of life,
Yeah.
but you were able to kind of park that and be very successful.
Yeah, I was. I was a manager at a software company, and I had a large team. I think when I left, I had about 15 individuals who were reporting to me, and I was making a good salary. But when I reflect on that, how I was able to do that, I realized that I had to sacrifice so much of my personal life because with anxiety disorder, my capacity was very limited. And so what I did is I funneled most of my energy and my capacity into my work. And therefore, I had a horrible personal life. There was only so much I could give with that anxiety disorder. And I ended up giving it most of it to my job and not much to myself, even. I wasn't taking good care of myself. And so I suffered as a result. And that's part of why I ended up having to leave that job, because I was on the verge of a nervous breakdown. Because if you sustain that kind of, putting all your energy into something outside of yourself, but not giving back to yourself, it's not sustainable. And so, I almost, went down a really dark road because of that. And thankfully I guess I would just say it was my spirit guides, the angels really intervened. They're like, this is not what you're supposed to be doing. You're not supposed to be driving yourself into the ground. You're supposed to be lifting yourself up and also helping other people. So I'm super grateful for whatever divine intervention came my way on that. Yeah.
Because like you had mentioned about kind of taking medication from doctors or whatever, and that's something that I've seen. I think that kind of suppresses stuff, and a lot of the time, unfortunately, the way that industry works, kickbacks and everything, I don't know, do they have your best interest in heart? But from actually seeing natural healing from what you've kind of learned in the last 7 years, I presume you've realized that that didn't really help you in what you were going through.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think sometimes people need medication to get them through, to whatever the other side of whatever their true healing will be. And I think that was, for me, the case. But really all it did was numb my symptoms. And then I had a much dimmer life as a result, because it narrowed my entire emotional range. So I was kind of like a zombie on that medication. And I finally realized, like, I don't want to be a zombie, So, I mean, I think there's a place for it potentially, but maybe more as like a bridge to something better, because it doesn't actually heal you. All it does is it masks the symptoms. And I was ready for true healing. Yeah.
Perfect. And just like with your own meditation, and I'd love to know your own kind of daily practices, what you do.
Daily practices. So I do all of the meditation techniques that I am going to mention are things that people can learn through the Modern Mystery School. So I do a form called Max Meditation, which I also lead quite frequently in person. And that is really a combination of active and passive meditation. So in the beginning, you're really just doing the passive meditation of relaxing the body, clearing the mind. And then we do an active meditation where we focus on a sacred word. We call it a kodadama. So it could be something like peace, love, unity, those kinds of things, harmony, some aspect that we want to bring into our life in that moment. And then we actively really focus on bringing that quality in. And I love that form of meditation because it does so much. It like clears your mind, but then it also allows you to bring in a quality that's really desirable and beneficial. I also do astral travel, which again, I teach astral travel as well. Which is a way of expanding your consciousness and moving your consciousness throughout the universe. And if you're looking for spiritual guidance, that's a really great modality, as well as you just want to, if you have a lot of curiosity about what's out there, astral travel is really cool. I also do a form called sanctuary meditation, which is a meditation technique where you go into your personal sanctuary, and it's going to be unique to you, whatever that sanctuary is. And then you can talk to your higher self. You can talk to your spirit guides. So that's more of an active form of meditation if you're really seeking guidance and want to get a higher perspective. I use that a lot when I have questions about how can I best accomplish this goal, or how can I manage the situation in a way that's to the benefit for myself or others. It's very helpful. And it's actually how using that technique is how I figured out that I was supposed to become a healer, because I just kept talking to my higher self and my spirit guides about what my true purpose was. And it became clear after those conversations. At first, I didn't believe it because I didn't trust myself. But I think with practice and and also doing your own healing journey, you learn to trust your intuition. You learn to trust the messages you receive through meditation. It just takes practice. But eventually I did start believing them, and then I started acting upon it. And then I was like, oh yeah, of course. So yeah, and then that's just a handful of the ones that I use, but those are probably the top 3 that I use on a regular basis.
Oh, brilliant. And I think with the intuition, sometimes in life, you kind of feel I should do this, but you end up letting your head get in the way, and you realize going back, your intuition was actually right. It was guiding you in the right direction, but
Exactly.
So you've been kind enough to send me a grounding meditation, which will actually go out after this episode. And like, I'm even barefoot now. I go out in the garden. I love grounding. But you might just
Yeah.
touch on that as well, the benefits and, some sort of how your meditation, maybe you could talk about that as well.
Yeah, sure. So the one I sent you is the max meditation. And so that's going to include some relaxation of the body and the mind, and then take you through a visualization of connecting with earth and the grounding qualities of the earth element. And I do different themes when I host my meditations. This is one of the more popular themes because I think a lot of people can use grounding nowadays. We get very stuck in our minds, our mental processes, and we kind of forget to be in our body. We kind of forget sometimes to connect with earth and connect with nature. And so if we can do that in our meditation practice, I feel it will bring more awareness to our day-to-day life of how we can continue to do that.
Brilliant, brilliant. So I know that you kind of do events and workshops. I the spiritual intuition workshop. Are your workshops in person, or are they online as well? And what would you cover during that?
Yeah, so most of my events will be in person. There is an energetic component to the work that we do because it's an ancient lineage. And it's everything that we do is passed down teacher to student. It's been done that way for thousands of years. And so they didn't have Zoom back then, right? So, to hold the integrity of the lineage and the energy, we want people to have the full benefit of it. And a lot of that transfer of energy happens in person. It's not just a mental thing that we do, with when we work with individuals. It has a lot to do with shifting their energy structure. And so some of the classes I teach, you mentioned spiritual intuition. That class is about helping to give people exercises to train their own intuition and get it to be stronger. And also we kind of help people recognize which aspects of their spiritual senses are strongest today, because everyone has spiritual gifts, but sometimes they discount them. Like, for example, I'll often have clients who say, well, I don't see anything, so I don't have any, my intuition doesn't work. And I'm like, well, do you get gut feelings? Do you just know sometimes that things are correct? And they're like, oh yeah. And, so then I help them understand, well, that's part of intuition. That's a huge part of intuition. So there's three main spiritual senses we work with in that workshop. The clairvoyance, that is the ability to see things, and then that are in the spiritual realms, and then clairsentience, which is that gut feeling or that knowing. It also can show up as a physical sensation as well. And then clairaudience, which is psychic hearing, which some people actually hear things. And I actually had a client one time who came into that class, and his doctors were telling him he had tinnitus, which is a constant ringing in the ears. So he thought he had a serious medical condition. And he's like, but the doctors are confused about why it's not always ringing. It's just ringing some of the time. But they're telling me I have tinnitus, and I'm kind of concerned about it. And he took my class, and then he realized, wait a minute, that's my clairaudience. It's my, spiritual sense kicking in. It's starting to come online. And when it first comes online, sometimes people experiences it as a ringing. So it like totally changed. He was so grateful because he thought, he had some medical condition. I'm like, no, that's actually probably your spirit guides trying to communicate with you or your higher self. So, yeah, so that's one of the things we do in that class. And then I also teach astral travel, which I talked about that technique a little bit, sacred geometry, which helps people create a sacred space in their home or their office. It helps you raise the vibration of your space through really simple but effective rituals that you can use on a daily basis. What else? I teach a few different forms of meditation on a regular basis. And then the most impactful thing that I teach is a weekend workshop called Empower Thyself Initiation. So it's 2 days. And that is actually an initiation into the lineage of King Solomon. And with that, it expands your capacity to hold the light by 10 times. You can hold 10 times more light in your aura after you receive this physical initiation. And so that is such a huge propeller for someone to create the life they really want in alignment with what's good for them. And they also get a whole toolbox of rituals and meditation techniques, chi exercises, just really like a whole toolkit of things to support them in creating their life at a higher level as a spiritual being. And also there's a lot of cool teachings in there that are ancient mystical teachings that you won't find in other places. So that is available to anyone after they've received their life activation. So people, if you're interested in that, you can feel free to contact me. But like I said, we have practitioners all over the world now. So it's very likely that wherever you are, there's someone that you could find through our website, or that I could connect you with if you're looking for a referral.
Brilliant. And for those that have never heard of King Solomon, or maybe have heard of the name but don't know much, can you kind of tell me a bit more how the kind of developed from King Solomon?
Yeah, I'd love to. Yes, because I think his story is undertold and incomplete. What you generally, if people know about him, what they know is incomplete. So so King Solomon was the son of King David in Israel. And King David was known for being a master general. Like he was created peace, but he did so through war as a means. And so King Solomon, he very much respected his father, but he knew that he was going to be king one day, and he wanted a different way. He didn't want to have to, be a general and worry about war and all the time. He's like, I want peace a different way. So he actually prayed to God and said, I would like the wisdom to know how to be a peaceful king. And it was granted. So he was called King Solomon the Wise. He figured out how to unite people through diplomacy. And that allowed him to actually give him the space to do what he really wanted to do, which was create a system of teachings and healings that was going to support humanity in their spiritual progression throughout time. And so he brought together all the healers and shaman and oracles and medicine people of his time into a huge temple city. And they tested out all of the modalities that they had from these different regions and these different traditions. And he said, I only want things that are universal, that work for all people all of the time. So if it doesn't work for all people all of the time, we won't include it. And so they spent decades testing all of these different modalities. And that is how the healing modalities we have in our lineage came to be. And over those past 3,000 years, it is an unbroken lineage. There's always been a lineage holder who was responsible for keeping those tools sacred and pure, and making sure that they would be passed down, for the future generations. And so that's the story of King Solomon that I think a lot of people don't know. So thank you for asking.
Yeah, I didn't know, to be honest with you. And and like, with what you've experienced, like, what ancient healing has kind of shocked you that you see works that you wouldn't have believed prior to kind of your transition?
I mean, the thing that personally shocked me the most was when I received my first initiation, and Empower Thyself initiation. That's when I completely overnight literally healed of anxiety disorder. I had been chipping away at it through, meditation and other healings, but and different spiritual practices, but it was still there. It was starting to diminish. But I never thought it was going to completely go away, to be honest with you. But after that initiation, it brings 10 times more light into your aura. And so I was just ready to kick it to the curb, and that light came in and flushed it out. So for me, that's my biggest personal miracle. But I've seen so many miracles with my clients and colleagues too, in all different areas of their lives. And that's why I wrote the book, Ancient Healings, Modern Miracles, so I could share those stories.
Excellent. And obviously of your book, but has there be somebody that has, from King Solomon, kind of as all his teachings, has it been created in a book in itself? Or is it
In a
usually
book,
kind of passed on from kind of stories from one generation to the next?
it's an oral tradition. So there are books that have pieces of it, but it's really the responsibility of our lineage holder to train other people the way that they were trained, and to pass that knowledge down, and to enable other teachers to continue to pass this knowledge down. So I do, like when I teach classes, we have a manual. Students will receive a manual, and they will get the teachings that are relevant for that particular class. But it's not like there's one book, if that makes sense.
Yeah, of course. And then with the company, so you've the Light Within and Next Leap. Is that still two separate companies that you're working with?
Oh, the Light Within is my healing company. I also do technical consulting on the side still, and so that's my other company. But my passion and my focus is this work that we've been talking about, which is the Light Within. That's my independent business. I am certified by the Modern Mystery School, but I'm an independent business owner with those certifications. Yeah,
brilliant. And you mentioned like 60 countries. How many kind of practitioners have they got around the world? Do you know?
I don't know the exact number. I mean, I think in the Western world we have a couple hundred guides. That's one of the titles that I have in the school, which is someone who can initiate people into the school, into the lineage. But then we have people who are trained to do the life activation, and that's the first step on our healer path. And we have thousands of those. The exact number I'm not sure of, but yeah, all across the world we have it's in the thousands.
Brilliant. Listen, Dawn, it's been fascinating. Thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. You might let people know, how can they get in contact with you?
Oh yeah, so my Instagram is at my name, Dawn Ressel, DAWNRESSEL. My website is www.lightwithinheal.com. So I would say those are the two best places to start.
Okay, perfect. I'll make sure I'll put the links both on the audio and the video. And thank you very much for the meditation. So those that are listening, make sure the next episode will be from Dawn, the meditation of the grounding.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Roy, for this opportunity. I really enjoyed our conversation.
No problem. That's all for the meditation podcast. As mentioned, we're on meditationpodcast.org. We're also on BitChute and YouTube, and you'll find my further podcasts along with my coaching bio.link/podcaster. Be sure to give us a thumbs up, 5-star rating, share with your friends. And when you get Dawn's book, make sure you give her a 5-star rating as well, because it all helps. Until next week, take care.